Hi, and welcome to Rick Fry in Real Time. First of all, we're brought to you by Oneness Ministries and the Stream Grace Network. Delighted to have as my guest today the Honorable Mayor of Norman, Larry Heikkila.
Heikkila, yeah.
Heikkila.
You got it.
I knew I would mess it up. Heikkila. Thank you for coming. You drove all the way from Norman to do this interview.
Well, it was a good drive up here.
It is a good drive.
So we'll find out what goes on the way back. They always tell me that there aren't any problems on I-35 between Norman and Oklahoma City. I really haven't experienced that no problem thing.
Somebody's giving you some wrong information.
Yeah.
You were elected mayor in 2022.
Correct.
Is it what you expected?
Most of it. We expected it to be contentious. We expected it to be a lot of hard work. We expected it to be very fast-paced, and it's all of those.
It's all of those things. Wow. What made you decide to run?
God.
Really?
Yeah, he allowed me to get angry at the previous mayor, and I
There were a lot of people angry at the previous mayor.
and I kept on standing around, and it was the typical American: who's going to do this job, and who's going to go up there and do something about this? And I'm the only guy standing, so I said, well, I'll pray about it, and he said, do that, and so I said, yes, sir. What else are you going to say?
Yeah. I've said I don't want to a lot, but you ended up doing it anyway.
Fighting against the wind.
Well, you spent 26 years in the Navy.
I did.
4 of those in a submarine.
That's great.
I'm not sure I could. You can't be claustrophobic and be in a submarine.
No, it's actually it's most of the time. It's like being in a room or in a building, but you're just in that room or building all day long.
Yeah.
All night long.
And you probably don't even know you're underwater.
Other than you just kind of figure it out at times. You can't walk outside. You can't do a lot of stuff.
What did you do on board?
I was basically a mechanic. I made oxygen and purified the atmosphere and did stuff. My job was anything that wasn't assigned to main propulsion was my problem. So it could be an egg mixer or, any kind of other thing that broke.
So I guess you're telling us that you're really good with your hands.
I have been.
Yep.
Sometimes I can break anything.
And I think I saw that you went to University in Arizona?
At Phoenix.
Phoenix.
Yeah.
Bachelor of Science?
Yeah, in business.
Science and business. So the science part, I can say, how's the business thing working out for you?
It worked out.
Did it?
A lot of what I learned in school, of course, is the basics of how to take care of budgets and how to take care of the other things that are in business administration. And then going to the city, that's always been, that's all that is another business, just another kind.
I saw that you and your wife had a glass business in Norman. How long did?
That was 78 to 83.
Well, I was there when I moved to Norman in 80.
Okay.
So
you were there?
Yeah, we were there at the same time.
We were on the south side of the road, just across from Interurban.
Oh, okay.
And so the shop's still there, but we're not.
Yeah, that's
Penn
funny.
Square solved that problem for us.
Penn Square.
You remember that happening?
Yeah.
I do.
Yep.
What happened?
The bank failed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it just really, it was the last lick after the oil boom had started going down.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was the final knell for a lot of businesses. And we never did go bankrupt. We never did anything. But Janet and I both worked, my wife and I both worked for about 3 years, paying off all the debt that we had.
Wow.
And the idea at the time was to leverage yourself as much as you could to make sure that you're using somebody else's money to make money. When the bottom falls out, that's not a good idea. Never have done it again.
Dries up, or it just creates debt? Well, huge debt.
Yeah, and for us it was not huge debt, but it was long-term debt. I'd buy materials at 90 days out, and all of a sudden those contracts, I'd have several contracts for a year, have all the materials, and I had nothing. No work, no way to get rid of them.
Wow.
So, yeah, you'll learn.
You learn. What made you decide to join the Navy?
I got a little letter in the mail that said I had a job. President of the United States gave me greetings, and so I went down to a recruiter, and I had heard I was a sophomore in school at that time at Colorado, and went down to the recruiter and said, I heard if I join I get to go to Germany. He says, no, but I'll give you a foreign trip if you want to go, but it's one place that you're going to go. And so I was walking back up trying to decide on what I wanted to do, and this Navy guy's propped up. This is like an old bank building.
Oh, yeah, I remember those.
And he's propped up against the back, and he's catching all the drift that comes out of the Army recruiter. He says, I'll give you a job if you can pass my test. I can pass the test. Passed his test, and he says, you got a week, and you're going in the service. Oh, I guess that's okay. I'm 19. You couldn't fill a cup with wit at that age, you know. But it was good. That was what the Lord needed me to do. I wasn't a Christian at the time.
You weren't? Okay.
No. Yeah, I was a long time after.
Yeah, because the Navy doesn't promote a relationship with the Lord.
No. But they talk about him a lot.
Yeah. They use his name a lot, yeah. I suppose. So when did you become a believer?
I was age 24. I'd gotten out of service the first time I got out of service, and we were up in Tulsa. And, my wife-to-be at the time gave me the late great planet Earth.
Oh, yeah.
You remember?
Yes, Chuck Colson.
Chuck. No?
Oh, no.
Now you got me doing it.
No. Who was that? Great Lake Planet Earth.
Yeah.
Like Great Planet Earth. Yeah.
Anyway,
it'll I read the book. The book.
It was my wife wanted me to go to. She was raised Baptist. She wanted me to go to the church she was raised in that part of her life, and so I was sitting there, and the preacher made a comment. He says, this is Christianity is not something that has gray areas in it. You're either in or you're out, and basically, what side are you on? And so it encouraged me. The Holy Spirit slapped me in the back of the head and said, "Make a choice." And so I made a choice, and started the journey.
Oh,
that's a long way back, though.
Well,
Hal Lindsey, that's right.
Hal Lindsey, yes.
Yeah.
So the last question that I was going to ask, but you brought it up, so I'm going to ask now. How did you meet your wife? Janet, is her name Janet?
Janet's her name, yeah. I met her, we had a mutual friend. I was working for an equipment company at the time, doing vibroseis machinery, the things that, instead of using dynamite to sound the earth to get reflections of where oil may be, this uses a vibrator.
Yep.
And so I was building machinery and fixing machinery that worked with that. And she was a friend. I needed a date to go do something, eat pizza, I think was what we went and did. It was a real challenging thing, and then we kind of got along ever since. Most of the time we got along ever since.
The follow-up question then, and you've just answered it, was it love at first sight, or did you have to win her?
No, that's a good question. You'd have to ask her. We were married 6 weeks. 6 weeks later.
6 weeks.
I'd make decisions. It it worked. 47 years later.
47 years later.
We're still making decisions. But
and you got it over a pizza.
Yeah, we still eat pizza too.
Yeah.
I forget even why that was. There was some kind of thing that was going on. I think she had a old boyfriend that was playing guitar at the pizza joint or something like that. Some kind of convoluted thing. She could tell you the story. But I don't know about love at first sight, but it is definitely love now. I've looked at her a lot.
Yep. Yep. I get that. So when did you retire from the Navy?
2010.
2000.
I got out for a while, went back in, and did part of that time full time, part of it is reserve time, and then in 10, it was time.
One of my good friends, a guy named Brian Winters, was a Navy man. He was a mechanic. He worked on jet airplanes, on aircraft carriers, and he's loved it.
Yeah,
he loved it. But you finally get to an age where you have to retire, I guess.
Well, not only an age, but the reason I did 26 instead of 30 was because they wanted me to go back to D.C. And I said, I'm not going to D.C. I'll go there on trips. I'll do that, but I'm not going back there. I left the girls where they were, and here in Norman, and then I went and traveled from them. Janet and I both moved a lot in the oil field. We were raised that way, and didn't want to move. We wanted to pick. Both of us wanted to pick jobs that you didn't move. Yeah. And when the Navy said basically you're going to go out there to D.C., that's just anathema to me. It's expensive. It's crazy. It's
not a place to raise a family. I don't.
No. And
now there are parts of Virginia that we have some friends there that they're fine people and
wonderful, but it's not there.
Yeah. Yep. You miss it? Did you miss the Navy?
At first, I still have the same friends.
Really?
Oh yeah. It just we get together and we mostly go down there to they're in San Antonio, and go down there there'll be a bunch of them. We'll play golf and eat and tell lies and the same stories we've told for 20 years.
Okay, let's see. Which commandment does that break?
All of them. it just they're a good bunch.
Yeah.
They're as close to me as any kind of blood relative could ever be.
Yeah. You said girls. You have daughters? Two daughters?
Two daughters. One's a teacher in Altus at a Christian school. The other's an artist and cook, because artists can't live by themselves. You know how that goes.
Yes, I do.
They have to have a profession.
Well, how can I tell you a story? My son, my youngest son, he's 33 now? 30 something. And I was an artist his whole life.
He's
his whole
older than
career.
that.
Yeah, he is older than that. And that's all he wanted to do. He said, that's what I'm going to do when I grow up. I'm going to be an artist. And he was a senior in high school. And he came to me and he says, Dad, I don't think I want to be an artist anymore. And I said, okay, how come? He says, because I want to make money.
Yeah.
So he became a chef.
Yeah. Well, that's what Amy did.
Yeah.
And my youngest.
Yeah.
And she works for Sodexo in Chickasha and has a real life and has realized what I've tried to tell her throughout her artistic career is that it's great to be able to express yourself. But it's just eating is fun and kind of necessary. And she does, and she gets that. I carve wood. I do things that are my expressions, and she, she's seen that I've always worked. Means you can't ever get anything done in a sitting.
That is self-employment.
Yeah.
You work all the time.
Yeah.
And as an artist, I rarely had a day off.
Yeah.
Because you have to market it, you have to sell it, and you have to produce it, and it's all the time.
Yeah. And she does.
Yeah.
She does murals and stuff in her time, and she'll take 3 days or whatever it takes to do that mural, and that's all she does. She concentrates on it, which is good. She's good, and she likes Chickasha, I think.
Chickasha's a nice little town.
Yeah.
Yep. I have the honor of having a piece at the state capitol, which was pretty cool. Pretty cool to be before the whole Senate and have them unveil this painting I did.
Where did it go?
It's on the Senate side on the 3rd floor.
Okay, I'll have to look for it.
Yep. Yeah.
What's the subject of the?
It's called A Place to Cross. It's the South Canadian River, just on the other side of Purcell. That bridge that goes between Lexington and Purcell. It's looking down that south.
How cool is that? I'll look for that.
Yeah, it is really cool. Really cool. So
if they don't get me for being lost up there in that side of the world. Kind of strict on where you go sometimes.
Yeah, they are. But this is open to public, so you shouldn't have any trouble getting there.
Good.
It was fun. It was fun. So you retired from the Navy, opened a glass shop, and then when did you start working for the city?
I started working for the city in the latter half of when I was in the Navy, and when I was starting to go more reserve than I was anything. It was full-time reserve sometimes and full-time not. And so I worked for the city. I forget when I signed up, but I worked for them for 17 years before I got out, and then retired from them in 14.
Oh man, Norman. When I was there, it was a pretty liberal town.
It is.
And I was a conservative, I was a Christian, and I was running the Arts Council, and I caught a lot of flack.
Oh yeah.
I caught a lot of flack, and I actually fell out of favor. I had a board, and it's when they started doing the music festival.
Oh yeah.
And I thought the music festival was a great idea. It just didn't belong to the Arts Council. The Arts Council is a funding organization, and we funded other arts. And they wanted this to become an event funded by the Arts Council. I said, that's not our vision. And so I got into some trouble with that. But
it's still the current director is leaving. I think
She is.
She is, and she's going to Seattle. I'm sure she'll be happier there.
yeah, oh yeah.
And so there'll be that position. I think will come open again if they haven't chosen somebody else. We moved the Art Council out from underneath the council purview. They're now an organization by themselves.
Do they still get the grant money from
They get grant money and all the rest
from
of
the hotel tax?
it. Yeah, they got a lot from hotel tax. That was their major boon for the
Yes.
year. But we had more say in what was going on. And there are enough things to get yelled at as mayor. And when you guys would choose something that somebody didn't like because of some reason, that's just ugly. Well, don't look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was easier to move them out.
Yep. Well, I thought weren't we under, I guess it was visitors and...
Yeah. In parks and
Parks
all of that.
Parks and Rec, yeah.
And so
you moved them out of that.
they're out of that. They're a separate organization. They're just a sympathetic group.
Yeah.
And so that's fine.
Yeah, sure.
Art is in the eye of the beholder, and
Sure.
there are some times that people look at stuff and tell me how beautiful it is, and I think, not today. And the other way around, things that I think are absolutely wonderful.
Well, you have me to blame for Second Friday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I started Second Friday.
Well, and that's a good thing. Chickasha, as a matter of fact, is trying to start that up.
Are they really?
Yeah, they steal that idea, and they steal away.
Well, sure. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
I stole it from Paseo.
Yeah. Oh, well, there you go. Well,
They did Second Saturday, so we did Second Friday.
yeah. And there really aren't any original ideas
There
when you
aren't.
start thinking about that.
As an
Do what you
artist,
need.
I only interpret what God has created. He created everything, and I just get to interpret it.
Exactly.
Yep. So
But I hope you're not like me. I was at the 7-Eleven before I came here, and I was looking at the gentleman's nose. I'm trying to get this guy's nose corrected. He's a Native American that I'm carving, and I can't get his nose right. And here's the perfect example. And it's so hard not to say, "Can I take a picture of your nose?" I might get whacked in the head.
you might. Now I was working on a piece. It was a commission, and the lady wanted, it was her husband, but he was in the Army, and she wanted a full portrait of him, but his hands were off. And I go, I have to figure out how to do these hands. So I took pictures of other people's hands and then put them in it, and she never knew the difference. So.
Yeah. Well, you got to do something. You got to make it look right.
So I did ask if I could take pictures of your hands. I've never asked to do a picture of your nose. But.
Yeah, well, He had a good nose. It just fit in right, and I'd kind of gotten a little too angular when I'd carved it down. I thought, it's just gonna make him real thin bridge kind of a thing. That's not right. So I managed to leave enough so I can get a little bit of a flare in the nose and cut that edges down, and then we'll see.
Yeah.